Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN0576, and I bet you didn't catch it because it wasn't even up for sale for 12 hours and it's gone. I say in these other videos, the good ones go quick, and even though this one has a lot of miles, it still wasn't even for sale for 12 hours. This is VIN0576, 2016 083, which is ultra white with gold flake, with LA20 interior, which is the black interior with the standard carbon fiber trim. For sale for $31,000 at a Lexus dealer in California with 200,000 miles. So this is, other than the ones that have been for sale at Copart, two of them have had over 200,000 miles. This is the first one in 2025 that I've seen with over 200,000 miles for sale. So this is kind of uncharted waters for pricing and things like that. This is a one-owner car with a clean title that it's been in California its entire life. So definitely desirable as far as everything goes. It just has a lot of miles on it. So we'll jump into production statistics and everything else, and we'll see what we know. But this car is already sold. So I'm just more or less getting this information out there for a price point for a 200,000 mile car. Production statistics, 648 out of the 2,348 cars produced for the US 49 everywhere except Hawaii were ultra white. Very common color, and of those, 267 had LA20 interior, which is the second most common color. The most common is white with red interior. This is white with black interior, second most common. Specific for 2016, 371 out of the 1,418 cars were ultra white, and of those, 149 had LA20 interior. So this car is one of 149. Very common color combination as far as that goes. With 200,000 miles, it's not gonna be a collectible car. It's gonna be a great driver car. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a one owner, one accident car with a minor to the rear in March of 2018. Epic VIN shows this as a two owner, no accident car. Not sure why Epic VIN over-reports owners, but I don't put a lot of weight into the number of owners for Epic VIN. AutoCheck shows this as a one owner, no accident car. So Carfax is the only one that picked up on that minor accident. The others don't show any damage. So I think this is safe to say this is a one owner, one accident car with a minor accident to the rear bumper. Previous sales. So it first went on sale January of 2016 in California for $87,000. It was still for sale at the end of July in 2016, and now in October of 2025 here in Temecula, California for $31,000 with 200,000 miles. And as I said, it sold in under 12 hours from the listing, no photos. There were several people that had called the dealership to get photos, and I only have one photo of the car in its state today. However, the person who ended up buying the car had already reached out to me, and that's how I know it sold. So speaking of the photos, as I said, there's just that one photo of it sitting at the dealership on the lift. It's obviously not washed or anything, but it does look overall pretty clean for having 200,000 miles on it. The wheels don't look beat up. You can definitely tell that the rear bumper, the color's off just a little bit, so that could either be from the accident or just Lexus and Toyota vehicles do that, where the plastic versus the metal, the surfaces don't quite look the same. But, you know, obviously that's the only thing I could really pick up from looking at that one photo. So I do have photos from when it was for sale back in 2016, but that's when it was a new car. I would assume that unless the interior or the front end of this car is absolutely trashed, then, which I would think it's probably not the case, I think that the price for it is great. Now, what I have to compare at this price point, there was a 2018 that sold earlier this year for the 180,000 miles that sold for $25,000 on Marketplace, and I think that went too cheap. And that was a car that was in Maryland. It was an atomic silver car with black interior, but it was a very much winter-driven car. And so it had a lot of defects, things like that. So then you have the rebuilt and salvage title cars. So rebuilt title cars with the lowest miles I've seen for a sale on one of those is about 135,000 miles, and it sold for about $30,000. Most of them are selling in the $28,000 to $32,000 range. So if you factor in that this car has not quite double the miles on it, I think this car at around $30,000 is a pretty fair price. It is a one owner with an accident, but it is a one owner car from Southern California. I would see no issues there. And we'll look at the service history here in a minute, but I think that the price is more than fair, and I think that's most likely also why it sold so quickly. So on to the service history. So this car looks like it's a combination of being well dealer serviced, but also serviced by a Toyota and Lexus independent mechanic. And so it looks like what they did is they go to the Lexus dealer, because Lexus will do like an in-depth inspection if you just even go there for an oil change. So they'd go there for an oil change, and then they'd say, oh, you need brakes, you need this, you need that, you need tires. And then they would go to the mechanic and get it done there slightly thereafter, like a week or two later. And so that's pretty much in line with what I'm seeing, because I had the Carfax on one side of my screen, I had the dealer service on the other side when I was taking notes here, and it's like oil change, brakes are low, tires are low, and then a week later it's replaced over here, or it shows vehicle serviced and brakes replaced at the independent mechanic. So it looks like if it needed it, it generally got addressed, but if you only go off the Lexus service history, it makes it look like it always needed brakes, it always needed tires. But if you're putting big miles on it like you are with this car, this car had like 80,000 miles on it in the first couple years that it was driven, which majority of the GSFs out there don't even have that kind of mileage. So we'll jump into the Lexus service history and I'll show you what I've found. So the first entry of note is May of 2018. The low pressure fuel pump was reprogrammed because it makes noise, makes kind of a humming noise. So that was done along with the JLB recall, which is the high pressure fuel pump. So low pressure situated, high pressure fuel pumps situated. A month later, in June of 2018, the low oil light was on and they topped it off and sent them on their way. A little odd to see, but this person's putting a lot of miles on this car in a hurry. Maybe they just didn't check the oil or something like that. Oil consumption is not normally an issue on these engines. August of 2021, the bumper was removed, the front bumper, to resecure the lower front grille piece, and I bet it was the passenger side because they just don't fit well. They're secured in with like 6 clips, and it's any kind of light pressure, it will come loose. Just a poor fitment. Lexus has never updated that part. It's a low production car, and it's kind of sad, but there are a lot of them that you see that being an issue. My car has that issue as well. You kind of have to shove some foam or something behind it to keep it in place, but it is what it is. October of 2021, noted 0.32, so bald, on the inside of the front tires. So if you've watched these videos long enough, what does that tell you? That tells you that the lower control arm bushings, the front lower control arm bushings, are probably getting worn out at that time, and I don't see anywhere in the service history or on the Carfax that those were done. So this being a one-owner car, I would definitely request to see if those have been replaced. If not, you may have ongoing tire wear issues until you replace that. But this car having 200,000 miles, I would assume they've probably been done at least at some point. January of 22, a new OEM windshield and the surround and clips and everything, and reprogrammed the forward collision sensor, 133,000 miles. September of 2022, 143,000 miles, the dealer recommended front and rear pads and rotors at a cost of almost $3,300. And you can see why people don't get brakes done at the dealer, because they want $3,300 to do brakes on these cars. As a reference, you can DIY it if you're slightly mechanically inclined. You can buy the Brembo rotors on Rock Auto, same Brembo rotors. There's a specific part for each corner, and either Brembo pads or PowerStop Z26 pads, which are lower dust, not quite as aggressive of a bite, but you can do all of that for about $500 and maybe $600 if prices have gone up a little bit, but $600 DIY brake job versus $3,300, couple hours of your time. September of 2023, the carbon fiber on the center console and the left dash piece, which is the piece to the left of the steering wheel, were replaced. And that's probably out of warranty. It doesn't say it was Goodwill replaced or anything. So somebody paid in the area of about $2,000 to replace those two pieces. January of 2025, the check engine light was on, several stored codes, but it was for port fuel injectors, not the direct fuel injectors, which are the very expensive ones. Maybe it has a dirty injector, but it was codes P0171, P0174, and P1170 for those codes. Now, the tech said they couldn't replicate the issue, but those were the codes that were stored. So obviously they cleared the codes. That was only 9 months ago, but it was also about 15,000 miles ago. So that would be something to maybe look at, plug your scanner in and see if there's any other stored or pending codes. But this car being already sold, that's an issue in the past now. At that same service, they noted 3 TPMS, tire pressure monitoring system sensors, not working, and it looks like he went to the independent mechanic to get those replaced. They used aftermarket ones, and then the next service they came back to the dealer complaining that they weren't reading. Well, replace the sensors with the right sensors and not aftermarket ones. These cars seem to be picky with tire pressure sensors. That's what was the issue there. And in that same service, they also noted that the sunroof seal was rattling and they replaced it. Common issue on these cars, especially if you go and drive these cars, open the sunshade and drive on a bumpy road, see if you get any vibration. These seals shrink over time and they cause excessive play in the sunroof. And so my car's had it done. I've seen several other cars that it's had been done. It's about a $40 or $50 seal and a 1-hour do-it-yourself, or you can go to the dealer and they'll pay you about $200, which is about probably what they paid here at the dealer. March of 2025, the driver's front door carbon fiber trim was delaminating and was replaced. So it looks like if it ever needed to be done on this car, it was done. So 3 of the 5 common pieces, so the dash on the passenger side and the front passenger door, have not been replaced at the dealer, but the other 3 pieces have been recently replaced. So that's pretty good to see as well. And the final service, July of 2025, replaced the front ball joints. And so with 200,000 miles, I'm at absolutely no surprise that those are needing to be done, and done at the Lexus dealer. Those were definitely not cheap to do. But again, this car looks like it's been extremely well serviced. It was obviously very important transportation for somebody, putting a lot of miles on this car in a hurry. And any other car for a 2016, 200,000 miles, you'd be like, oh, it's not a big deal. On these cars, 200,000 miles, these engines have been proven that they'll last twice that, if not more. There's ISFs out there with 400,000+ miles on it, RCFs with 300,000, and GSFs, there's one in Mississippi with like 260-something thousand miles. That's the highest mileage one I know of in the United States, but there's several with over 200,000 also. So this car being the only one this year that, it's a good price point to see where the market is. And so I think, there you go. If your car has 200,000 miles, 2016, with a clean title, $30,000. So what is not done? What have I not seen done? It's very likely that some of this could have been done at this third independent mechanic, this third-party mechanic. Valley plate, don't see anything about that, but at almost 200,000 miles, I would not be surprised if it's already been done. Spark plugs, belts, hoses, transmission service, rear differential service. I said spark plugs. Things like that. The lower control arm bushings, the ZLZ customer service program, which is the cracked, peeling, delaminating, sticky dash. You're covered for 10 years from the in-service date, but I think it's limited. I don't think it's unlimited mileage. It could be, but I think it's limited to 125,000 miles. So if this car does have that issue, you're probably out of luck, or you're gonna pay for it out of pocket. So, and finally, would I buy this car? Even sight unseen, unless it's absolutely trash. Like, give me a couple photos, I would take the risk on it. It's well serviced, even though it isn't all at the dealer. It's already had a lot of the carbon fiber trim replaced. It's had all of the common issues sorted, except for valley plate and lower control arm bushings. But those may have been done at the independent mechanic. So I think 30 grand, yeah, I would be on board with this. Jump in it, go drive it, go rack up the miles on this. Love to see another 400,000 mile GSF out there, and you can take the crown as highest mileage GSF, because it's definitely getting up there. Anyway, I think it's definitely a good one. I think that's the reason it's sold in under 12 hours, is because everything has already been addressed. The only thing I may be worried about is that check engine light that came on earlier this year or late last year, with the injector codes. But again, that's not the end of the world, especially if you're getting a car at 30 grand. It's definitely a low cost of entry into GSF ownership, but it's just a great one to just jump in and go drive. So anyway, that's what I've got for you guys. VIN0576. Enjoy it. New owner. It definitely looks like a great one. Send me some more photos. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.